Hello everyone, this is the Magic Cat, and you're with Magic Cat Gaming today. We're going to be doing a little bit of Rakdos Exploration. This one isn't really an exploration, this is just a straight up Rakdos mid-range, but I think if you're going to play Rakdos right now, this is kind of where you want to be. You could probably still do a sacrifice deck style thing with Claim the Firstborn and Ovens, but I can't get away from Kroxa. I've loved the Titans since they were spoiled, and I can't play with Uro, so because it got banned. So Kroxa it is. This is a fun list. There's not really anything complicated here. We've got a couple of Bloodchief's Thirst for removal. We've got Duress to hit our opponent's hand, Spikefield Hazard, to up our land count, but also to ping X1s or to remove other creatures. So it's not unreasonable to cast the Bloodchief's Thirst on an opponent's Kroxa after hitting it with a Spikefield to get rid of it permanent, because the thing is, it doesn't have to deal the killing damage, it just has to have been cast on it, and then that creature needs to die that turn. So it can absolutely be combined with either creature combat or something else to basically get rid of something permanently. Agonizing Remorse, more hand hate. This is less good than Duress in this deck because we kind of want our opponent's stuff to go to the graveyard so that we can... I take it back. That's not this build. We don't care if stuff goes to their opponent's graveyard. It's still good. But mostly the Agonizing Remorse is, again, for stuff that needs to go into exile as opposed to just being removed from their hand. We've got 4 Heartless Acts, which is a great removal spell still. There was a while where there were so many counters running around that I thought that it wasn't really that worth it, but it's back around to being good. Mire Triton to fill up our graveyards for the Kroxas. We've got a single Shredded Sails. It's kind of a best of one card here. We can cycle it if we don't need it. That's the only reason it's honestly in the deck. We've got 4 of these Kroxas. We've got 4 Tymarets. These Tymarets help us find our Kroxas, and more importantly, they fill the graveyard for our Kroxas. The only time you'll ever use that remove ability is if one of the Mire Tritons or the other Tymarets are actually in the graveyard. And even then, it might be wrong just because, again, we want that fuel for Kroxa or for Ox. Tymaret Calls the Dead is a great card, though, but you're not really... You really just want it for the mill. Bonecrusher Giant, of course, premium card. Hagra Maulings, just when you gotta kill something. This is a card that does it at instant speed. Nothing special to it. 2 Lilianas. There aren't a lot of good decks that use Liliana. This is probably one of the best for it. Liliana is a card that cares about how many cards are in your graveyard. So you don't necessarily want to... She's kind of a non-bow with Kroxa in that sense, because you can Kroxa back and then not be able to hit -3 to remove something. But the reality is that you're trying to get to that -7. You hit the -7 with her, and then all of a sudden you're bringing back a Bonecrusher Giant, you're bringing back a Mire Triton, you're bringing back a Kroxa every turn, you're bringing back an Ox every turn. Like, whatever it takes, like, she brings good stuff back. Ox, good way to refill, super cheap to exile from your graveyard, and it's actually not difficult to get to that with this deck. You really only want to cast them, though, when the graveyard's, when your hand is pretty empty. Shatterskull Smashing, it's the land, it is also a removal spell. I find that the deck almost never has enough mana to really get this thing to any kind of large number. It's best for removing problematic permanents that you haven't been able to kill otherwise. Or it's better as a land. It's almost never wrong to use it as a land, unless, your opponent's on rogues and you've got to kill a couple X1s kind of thing before they get bigger. All right, let's give it a shot. All right. Rakdos Midrange is one of my favorite decks from this current standard format in terms of just actually grinding the ladder. Rikoru. It's always interesting when you see people using the Japanese letters. Alright. Well, we got both of our lands. We've got a Spikefield Hazard as a 3rd land if we need it. We can cast Mire Triton or Kroxa on 2. We can cast Bloodchief's Thirst on 2 if we need to. We're going to go ahead and keep it. It's not ideal, but I don't see anything wrong with it, really. So we're going to go with the Fabled Passage first. make sure we have our black source on 2. Because everything that we are going to possibly do on turn 2 requires a black source. Temple of Malice. It might be the mirror match. Let's see what happens. So we're going to play our mountain. We're going to go ahead and we're going to lead with the Mire Triton. The reason we're not Kroxaing right away is just in case it's the mirror. Some of the mirror decks run that black card that lets you eat stuff from graveyards, and we don't want to just run our Kroxa directly into that. We want to give our opponent a chance to play some stuff out from his hand and maybe have the less good options. Oh, well, now that we've doubled up on our Kroxas, we're just going to go ahead and run it out now, but we'll attack first. No reason not to attack. Give him extra info before he does stuff. Alright, Spikefield Hazard. Not what we want to see because it's going to exile our dude, but not a problem. Play our Kroxa. Interesting thing with Kroxa, if he had hit it with a Spikefield Hazard before it sacrificed itself, it would be gone. He'd have to discard still, but I would not be able to bring it back. So, fun stuff. He discarded a Tymaret, so it is definitely the mirror match. And it's because it's the mirror match that I'm not going to use Spikefield Hazard on his Mire Triton. I'm going to save it for his Kroxa for when that happens. Besides, I can just Bloodchief's Thirst this Mire Triton away, and I absolutely do not feel bad about it. Now, I do feel bad about not playing a land here, but I do feel like that Spikefield Hazard is going to find a Kroxa at some point, and being able to, you know, 1 red mana, your Kroxa doesn't do anything else. Feels pretty good, especially since I have a Kroxa to discard to Kroxa, if it comes down to that. Yep, there he is. Discard a Kroxa. I wonder if he knew you could do that. Now I'm getting screwed on lands here, so if I don't find something quick, I might be in trouble. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and Bonecrusher him in the face if I don't top deck a swamp. Mire Triton. Mire Triton doesn't feel good because I still can't bring stuff back. I need the cards on top, and I need them to be a swamp. So we're just gonna cast a Bonecrusher. Our opponent's probably gonna take 2 to kill it, but oh, gonna take 4 to kill it. Bonecrusher to Bonecrusher. He's got the cards. That had to hurt. Alright, we've got a Heartless Act, and we've got a Mire Triton. Since he used 2 Bonecrushers there, I'm guessing he doesn't actually have a lot of ways to deal with that stuff. We are still not drawing lands. What are we going to do? We'll go ahead and play the Mire Triton. Hope that this mills 2 non-lands off the top. Ox of Agonas. Now that might actually be worth casting, because we desperately need a land, and we've got enough cards in the graveyard to actually activate it. So, discarding a bunch of cards that, you know, we may not be able to use might be worth it. Bloodchief's Thirst, not a big deal. He's going to probably follow that up with the other giant. Taking 4 here is not a big deal because we're still at our starting life total. Okay, we found a land. Not the land we wanted to get. So let's go ahead. We could Duress our opponent and then Ox, which I think is a really good play. That's what we're going to do. Alright, so let's force him to pay life. And we'll go ahead and Ox. still did not hit a land. This is just painful. Alright, he can kill our Ox, hit us for 8. That's painful. He'll hit himself for 2. We've got a Kroxa, but really we need a land. We need a land so badly. If we get a land, we can play a Liliana and minus to kill one of his dudes. We got a Temple. And we got a Swamp on top. We'll leave that there. Forcing him to discard's not great. We need to cut down the damage, so unfortunately we have to Heartless Act here. Next turn we can bring back a Kroxa from the graveyard, depending on what he's actually been top decking. If it's more removal, we've basically already lost the game. If it's not more removal, we might have some options. Terror of the Peaks. Okay. So that's not great. In fact, I'm pretty sure that means I have to play the Liliana and minus. Is it spell or ability? It's only spells. Okay. So definitely not ideal. That's got to die. This is going to put us to 2, and if he's got any other source of damage, we are in trouble. This will deal some damage to him, but that that knight is not actually in his hand, so we couldn't force him to discard it. It's the adventure zone. Oh, and their ankles game. That's what happens sometimes. So, way back when we cast the Mire Triton instead of the Heartless Act, that was probably a mistake. You know, the fact that he had a handful of nothing but removal meant that he had plenty of ways to clear the way for those guys, but, you know, not much we could do with that hand overall. Missing that swamp for so long is what lost it for us. If we were bringing back Kroxas instead of desperately trying to get back in the game with the Ox, it would have been a completely different game, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, we don't have any black source, so we've got a mulligan. Alright, black and red, this one we can keep. We're going to absolutely get rid of the Shredded Sails. That's the card we don't care about in the hand. And we're going to lead with the Duress. Stern Dismissal into the Royal, Opt into the Royal. And a Ruin Crab. Alright. What do we care about as far as that goes? I think it's going to be... hard to say. It's a bunch of removal that is bad against us because we want to cast our stuff from our hand over and over and over again. I guess we take the Opt. Now, unfortunately, we don't actually have anything that answers the crab. But he doesn't know that, so he's not playing anything into it. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to Kroxa and force him to discard something. Alright, so he's using it when he can take advantage of it. He's going to mill a 6. He's got to realize how bad of an idea that actually is, because now we are absolutely going to be able to Kroxa over and over and over again in this game. I mean, our deck is basically pre-boarded against mill, so let's see what happens here. We could Kroxa again, or we could Agonizing Remorse. I feel like the Agonizing Remorse is the correct play. See what he drew. He's got another into the Royal. Nothing in his graveyard is relevant, so we'll just take one of those into the Royals because we don't have a lot of choice. Now, the end of the Royals can protect his crab. That's not what we want, but it is a thing, excuse me, that can happen. What we really want here, and then he just milled an Ox. We want to draw another land here, in particular a red source, so that we can bring back our Kroxas. bunch of non-lands off the top. We got half a chance. There we go. It's a land. It's not the land I wanted to see, but it is a land. It doesn't matter. We're going to leave it on top. Opponent is likely going to mill it off of us. We can force him to discard an Into the Royal. That's going to be one of the ways to actually get him to not be able to protect his stuff. And we're going to want to bring back a Kroxa anyways, so let's go ahead and Kroxa. So he's got a tutelage. That one kind of hurts. But he's out of resources here, because I'm going to force him to discard. And I got another Kroxa in the yard. So he's going to start taking damage very quickly. And if he doesn't come up with an answer, this game will be over, I think, before it actually gets to that point. Alright, another land. And we're bringing back Kroxa. So that's going to hit him for 3. There's Kroxa number 4. He's gotten into the story. That really hurts with the tutelage on the field. He might have suddenly come back into this game, as annoying as that is. Alright, we got the Heartless Act. We're going to kill the Ruin Crab. We are now going to attack with the Kroxa, force him to discard something. Fire Prophecy's not too bad. Going to let him move to blockers. It's not really a big deal here. Kind of waiting for him to cast like something to protect himself. Interesting. So that is going to be a problem, because we got one more draw step, but we're not going to get it, because this is going to deal damage to us too. So we need to actually deal lethal damage here. And I don't think we can. It would basically require him to mess this up, and he's not going to. Oh yeah, I did mess it up. Oh man, how did I mess it up? Well, he would have been dead if I had done it correctly. Let's show it. Alright, so we messed that one up. We could have won that one if I had just removed his creature. I thought I didn't have the mana for it, but I did have the mana for it, and I messed it up. Gotta be able to learn from your mistakes. So, play a little slower next time. Not mess it up like that. We'll get one more game in. See how it goes. Absolutely should have beat Mill. Just got a little unlucky and messed up the thing at the end. It shouldn't have been that close, I'll put it that way. But it was still my fault I lost. Alright, this will work. We've got our colors, we've got a Kroxa, we've got a Tymaret. We are absolutely using the Spikefield Hazard as a red source on turn 1. That is what it's there for. Never hesitate. Alright, we got a blue source, which means Kroxa. A Crawling Barrens. Okay. Some kind of control spell. Yeah, that's an interesting card. Alright, we're going to throw down a Tymaret. I'm not sure how well Shacklegeist really works for them. Yeah, we're definitely not going to exile the Kroxa for the Tymaret. Next turn we might take 3 damage to bring it back. Yeah, we can exile the Mire Triton and still bring back our Kroxa, so that's what we're going to do. We are going to go ahead and... is that the right thing to do? We could Bonecrusher and Heartless Act here to get rid of both his creatures. I think shocking this in and bringing back the Kroxa is acceptable here, because I'm kind of expecting him to try to keep it tapped down with the Shacklegeists. But those Shacklegeists, I don't think they're going to stick around. I got enough removal to make them irrelevant. And the card advantage that Kroxa will give me by, you know, forcing him to discard here and then potentially again later. Yeah, he's taken 6 damage from that Kroxa just because he keeps discarding lands. Using 2 Shacklegeists to tap down a Kroxa is not particularly mana efficient. And he's not going to, it would seem. Gonna put me to 11. Oh, and draw a card. That's not bad. It does mean that I've basically got a guaranteed kill, because he can only counter one of these spells, most likely. We'll lead with the Heartless Act. Well, we'll lead with attacking, because we want to make sure that he is discarding before we do anything. Pilfer. Yeah, this is an interesting deck. Yeah, we'll leave that on top, because it's definitely going to have a target. We'll play this, but it's still going to stay on top, because we like it. We're going to move to combat. We're going to go ahead and attack. Give him a chance to block with the Pilfer, which he takes. Great. We're going to Bone Crush the Sea Dasher. Heartless Act the Shacklegeist before he can untap. And it's your turn. What you got? Yet another land. I mean, he's dead to the Kroxa attacking if we have any removal, which we knew from the top of the deck that we did. So that's the game. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that deck. It was a little more competitive than the decks I usually run, but you know, this is the ladder, so at some point I gotta stop messing around. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a nice night.